Hello engineers, welcome back. In this video, we'll see how to renew main engine crankpin bearings. The engine which I am showing is 6G50 MEC engine. First, take the respective units to TDC. Then place the crankpin bearing removal jacks and connect the hydraulic hoses and increase the pressure to 1500 bar, which is opening pressure. Then loosen the bearing bolts. Then connect these tools to connecting rod on both sides. Then place this crossed support tool on forward and aft side to take the crossed weight. Then connect these eye bolts and D shackles on the connecting rod and lower bearing supports on both sides respectively to take the lower bearing support through the chain blocks which is connected on the connecting rod. You take the weight of crankpin bearing lower supports on chain blocks on both sides, remove the crankpin bearing bolts and lower the lower bearings to the crankcase. Then connect these chain blocks to connecting rod on both sides and slowly turn the crankshaft towards crankcase door. Once the crossed weight was taken by the crossed tool which we mounted on forward and aft, pull the connecting rod towards the crankcase door using the chain blocks and make sure that the bearing doesn't touch the crankshaft. Once the crankshaft is fully cleared from the bearing, further turn the crankshaft further away from the bearing. With one man holding the bearing, remove these bearing locking align bolts. Here I will show you three types of damages which was happened to my crankpin bearing. One was heavy damage, one was lightly damaged and moderate damage. The heavily damaged I have to replace with new bearings. The light and moderate damage we can rectify by using a bearing scraper tool. This is bearing scraper. Here you can see the B&W service engineer is repairing my crankpin bearing using the bearing scraper. Basically, he was trying to make the bearing surface as smooth as possible. Once scraping was finished, you clean the bearing surface using a scratch brite. This is a steel ruler. Using this, service engineer seen the bearing surface for any unevenness. This is the condition of my crank pin bearing after the bearing repair. Damages to the lower bearing also, so service engineer had repaired the lower bearing a little bit. Little scoring on the crankshaft is polished. On my last video on crossset bearing renewal, I explained how to do the pin polish detailed and how to check the scratches on the pin. Then inspect the crankshaft and connecting rod and the lubile passage. Once all are satisfied, put back the top bearing and lock it by using the bearing locking align bolts on both sides. Then slowly turn the crankshaft and slowly move the connecting rod to sit on the crankshaft and make sure that it doesn't damage the bearings. Then place the lower bearings and lock the lower bearings using the bearing locking align bolts. Then connect the chain blocks and raise the lower bearings. Sometimes you have to use two chain blocks to raise the lower bearings because it's very long. Once the lower bearing came up, put back the crankpin bearing bolts and then connect the hydraulic jacks and increase the pressure to 1500 bar and tighten the two bolts crankpin bolts on both sides. Please note that here tightening is done in two steps to avoid the hydraulic jack piston moving too much. For detailed explanation on hydraulic jack tightening procedure, see my videos. Thank you guys. Thank you engineers for watching. Support me.